thanks so much. It's so great to be here. When I was putting this together, I was looking at old pictures of my daughter and me, and that guy back there in 2003 would not even recognize the life that I have right now, that my daughter and I have right now. It's pretty amazing to me because I was pretty hopeless at that point, fresh from divorce. I knew I could be a good father, but the whole single thing had me a little rattled. But I always even knew, even back then, that something interesting and amazing was happening. And in fact, just before that picture of my daughter and me was taken, I brought a woman home for the very first time to have dinner with us. And I've always been very, very careful about introducing women to my daughter. But this was the first time. And my daughter actually, there's a whole long story behind it. It became my first blog post. My daughter actually puked all over the dinner table as I was putting the food out. Not just like a little, throw up. It was everywhere. It was in the food. It was on the tablecloth and the carpet on the floor. And three things went through my mind right away. The first was, oh, my poor baby. I am a horrible, horrible father. The second thing was, I am never going to have a girlfriend. And the third thing was, damn, this is going to be a really good story. And so I realized even then that these really incredible things were happening to me, either wonderful or terrible, heartbreaking, funny, but always kind of at my own expense. And so I started to write the stories down, especially the ones about being single at first, because it really was such a new world and a new environment for me. Anyway, I was really lucky because I had a kind of a guide to take me through single life, and that was this guy who, I don't know if you saw like Crazy Stupid Love, the Ryan Gosling character. That was my best friend. I mean, they could have modeled that after him. And he kind of took me out and helped me understand just how to have a good time being single. Being single is really fun. You can have a really good time out there. And what I found out was I was really living the best of both worlds, and sometimes the worst of both worlds, because, but the best part was I could live up being single. I could enjoy it to its fullest extent, and believe me, those first few years I really did. But the next day, I could be the best parent possible because I was totally dedicated to my daughter. And I could have both of those worlds. And they really were two very, very different worlds. But they both had great stories. And one thing that they had in common was me trying to understand a girl's life and trying to understand being a father to a girl and trying to understand how to meet girls. Like, there's this kind of whole thing about being in the world of women, which I thought was really interesting. So I wrote these stories down, mostly for me, because I knew something important was happening, but I really wasn't sure how I was going to process it all. And writing is the best way for me to process stuff. So I'm processing these stories by writing them down, and I'm not really thinking too much about publication. I showed them to an editor at the Denver Post where I was working at the time, and she thought they were well written, but too personal for the newspaper, which is weird now, all this time later, when you see that personal stuff's everywhere. But I was really lucky because an editor at sheknows.com met me at a conference, and she was looking for the male perspective on parenting, and she actually gave me the Dating Dad moniker, which has stuck with me now for quite a few years, for blessings and curses, but mostly good, I would say. So she started posting these stories that I was writing, and I really decided I didn't want to write just like this travelogue of my life. What I wanted was to write one really good story every month that had sort of a universal theme that people, not just single people, but anybody reading it could get something out of. And I focused on stories about the single life, and I focused on the stories about raising a girl and kind of the confluence of those as well. And when I talk about raising a girl, my girl's pretty amazing. So this is really funny because this is probably the only time she ever wore pink, especially a pink dress. This is a girl who loves dinosaurs, who's a Lord of the Rings fanatic. Like, tomorrow's Frodo the Hobbit's birthday, and I'm cooking rabbit stew because that's what she's requested. I don't know how to do that. We'll see what happens. She wants to be a paleo artist because she loves designing, because she loves dinosaurs so much, and she's an artist, and she wants to design museum displays. So she has, poses her own unique challenges. She started Taekwondo when she was a lot younger, and she just recently got her black belt. I mean, she's like this amazing, amazing kid. So I had this going on, and then I had the whole single life thing happening. And the things didn't overlap very often, but every once in a while they would. And I was writing these stories. And I was writing, like I said, I was writing mostly for myself. Eventually the She Knows stuff went away and it just became my own blog, my own website. And mostly it was like my mom, reading these and then emailing them out to all her friends. So I was really cognizant of that. But what happened was I found out there were other people reading it. And the quick story here is that I went to Seattle for a weekend. I was going to be there on business, and I decided to go out the weekend early just to kind of explore the place. And I was out on Twitter, and I said, anybody doing anything cool in Seattle? And this single mom who followed me on Twitter said, can we meet up for cocktails? I'm like, yeah, of course we can meet up for cocktails. Speaking of, I should take a sip here. I said, yeah, of course we can meet up for cocktails. So she brought out another friend, and they came, and we were at the first bar, and we're having some great drinks, and they kind of get this goofy look on their face, and they said, can we get a picture with you? I'm like, why would you want a picture with me? And they said, you're the dating dad, which was kind of sent me a little bit sideways. But basically what I found out was there's this enclave of single parents in suburban Seattle, and every time someone got divorced, these women would say, oh, you got to read Eric because he's going to give you a lot of perspective. And what I learned was women really tended to be readers of this column, probably more than men, because they didn't realize that guys have feelings too, I guess, and that have this perspective. So it really changed the way I saw the blog and what it meant to other people, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own that way. So there were things that I learned from writing and from not just from processing it, but these unexpected consequences. And one of them was, if I was feeling helpless, I'm not really good at asking for help in real life, although I've gotten better at it. But I could write a pretty plaintive blog about what I was going through, and the outpouring of support and help was huge. But it also opened up something to me to asking for help from the strong women in my life. And I'm really, really lucky, and Simone's really lucky, because we are surrounded by strong women. We have the women in my family who are not afraid to tell me when I'm being a dumbass, but also absolutely support everything I do. So here's my mom and her twin sister. My middle sister, Karen, my youngest sister, Karen, super quirky and funny, just like Simone. And then my middle sister is this amazing mom. So I have like this great wealth of support. But none of my family lives close by, so we've kind of created our Ursat's family here. And Simone has these aunties, these really strong, creative, powerful women who are a great example for her. There's one over there, actually, sitting. Hi, Marcia. But so it's really important for me to find aunties for Simone. And there's these creative, loving, super artistic, fun, quirky people for her to model her own characters, herself off, I guess. And then, of course, she has Auntie Ian too, or Uncle Ian. And that was the other thing that happened was I have these amazing friends that just came out of writing, of really being open and opening my heart and opening myself to what the world had to provide as a single guy, which meant a lot of dates as well. Some great dates, some horrible dates, and some real heartbreak. But you know what the best thing about horrible dates and heartache is? It makes you a better writer. And they're great stories. Like a good date, that's a good story. A terrible date, that's an awesome story. So, and then one set of really good dates turned into the one serious relationship I've had. And I wrote a whole series of blog posts about the peach. And one of the things that I learned the hard way was that if you're going to write about someone, it might help if she knows about it first. That was a big mistake on my part, and it was a good learning. It was good learning for me because for me it's always a lot easier to express myself in writing versus expressing myself, talking to someone. It's something I work on a lot, but. There's a really valuable lesson here, and it happened a couple times. And what it helped me to understand is if I'm going to write about something in a blog, and if I'm going to write about someone, and it's always anonymous, but she knows who she is. I don't write about anything we haven't talked about in person first, and I always let that person read the blog post and get an idea of what I'm going to write, and I get some approval and some serious feedback for it as well. But the other amazing, wonderful thing I learned from the Peach was that you can really gain a lot and give a lot when you're honest and open about your feelings. You say what you need, you say what you want, you let your world be, you let your internal world be exposed to the external world. And she forced that out of me, and I wasn't really used to doing that. We struggled a lot with it, but it made me such a better person. And really, when things kind of fell apart with her, here's some disclosures, I decided to start going to therapy because I realized I wasn't going to be in a successful relationship if I didn't figure out how to communicate and how to be really open and honest about what was going on inside. And it's been an amazing experience. And the reason I can stand here and talk about this to you right now is because I've worked so hard to have that sort of freedom of disclosure. It also, I think, makes me a better parent, which is pretty awesome because I love being a dad. My daughter is amazing, and I love the time we have together. In fact, I can't wait to go pick her up this evening as soon as this is over. She's incredible, and I'm not afraid to kind of really talk about how much I love her. And the nice thing is, I don't really get faulted for that very often. There are some women out there who don't want to be the number 2 girl in my life. They want to be the number 1 girl. And if that's how it is, then it just, it doesn't work out. And I've kind of realized that that's okay too, because, I have my priorities. Look, this is great. First time camping, most recent time camping. I'll go back and look at that again. I love that. She's just such an amazing kid. So, and then the other thing I learned was, it is really fun to be single, but it's also really challenging. And I've had some high highs and some low lows, some really, really bleak times in my life in the last almost 9 years now. And things that were so wrenching and where I thought I wasn't going to be able to find my way out of it. But writing my blog helped me do one thing, and that is realize that, when things are really bad, that's when you laugh, and that's when you find humor in what's going on for you. And my blog posts, they're really, if things fall apart and I'm writing about it, it's my fault, and I write about it from that self-deprecating way. It's really important to me to use these posts to kind of learn and to make them a chronicle for me of my struggles and what's been going on. And what I've also realized is when I get out of bed in the morning and I'm feeling like sad or blue, not feeling good about the way things are going, you look in the mirror and give yourself the finger, and it really works. Because this is where you go, you get out of bed and you're like, oh, damn, life is so hard. And then you look in the mirror like, shut up, you jerk, Life is awesome. Life is really amazing. And, the key is that we have to, when I wake up in the morning and I kind of give myself the finger, I figure out what my blessings are. I have these amazing friends. I have my own company. I have all these things that I never could have imagined that I would have 9 years ago, writing books and meeting these incredible people from all over the world, just from the writing that I do and creating that community that way. And that's all really good, but the most important thing, the thing that really gets me out of bed every day, that's kept me out of just from pulled me off of the ledge, is this idea that I have one responsibility really in my life, and it's to keep that girl smiling. And luckily for me, I've been able to do that. So, thank you.